Shalom Israel. For a start, I want to give all glory, honor, and praises to Yahweh, Hashem, Yahushai, Bahara Kakadash. God bless the elders and apostles in Israel who rule and teach well, the Akim and Iris and byways, and those pushing this word in truth, sincerity, to the brothers and sisters in the truth. Now, it shouldn't be a long lesson, hopefully it's edifying. There's some article that I saw. I just want to read some of the article and just read a few precepts, in a chapter. But we speak about judgment being brought from the Lord, how there will be famines, earthquakes, wars, all of these things. And because some of these things, they're not done, what's the word I'm looking? They're not done just like that, it's not in full force straight away. Worldwide famine, worldwide wars, worldwide pestilence, etc., etc. What we say is taken with a pinch of salt. You might have a little bit of famine over there, but over the other side, the others may be able to eat. But, these things are done in increments, bit by bit, little by little, until it builds up to the full force, to the full judgment. And when we see things happening little by little, this is the most I've given us warning signs, actually. I'll bring this out now. I was going to bring it out afterwards. This is 2nd Esdras 16 and 18. It says, the beginning of sorrows and great mourning. So when we see like famines, wars, rumors of wars, earthquakes, pestilence, all of these things, these are the beginning of sorrows. And it's going to get worse. It's like when a woman is in labor, the pain, like the doctor would say to her, oh, you know what? It's lucky. Let me share my screen. Okay. Yeah, when a woman's in labor, they'll say to her, how many minutes apart are your labor pains? It might be 20 minutes apart, then it drop to 15, then 10, then 5 minutes, and you know that the baby's almost here. And it's like with these warning signs that we are seeing. These are the beginnings of that great famine, that great judgment. It says the beginning of sorrows and great mournings, the beginning of famine and great death, the beginning of wars, and the powers shall stand in fear, the beginning of evils. What shall I do when these evils shall come? So behold, famine and plague, tribulation and anguish are sent as scourges for amendment. So when we see the startings of these things, we should be acknowledging what the Most High says, and that is for us to get ourselves right. But as it goes on to say, verse 20, but for all these things they shall not turn from their wickedness, nor be always mindful of the scourges. Why? Because these things are the beginnings. We're not in the full force of famine. We're not in the full force of war. So they take these things lightly, and for the most part, a lot of people ain't being touched certain ways. So they don't see that. They got this Esau mentality that you'll never be touched. Yeah. But those with eyes to see will see that, look, this is the time for us to get ourselves right. So this article here, it's today, what's today's date? 20th of February, yeah? It says, why supermarkets had empty shelves over the weekend. And, we had a few empty shelves through the pandemic, but even since then, things have never really got back to the plushness that they were before. I do shopping for my aunt, and one thing I noticed as well is that the shelves ain't as plush as they used to be. You tend to see empty shelves, or what they do now, they try and spread things out along the shelves, so it looks like the shelves are stacked, but they're not as full, as voluptuous as they used to be with bare stocks on the shelves. It's very thinly laid. And this is all the Most High is doing, giving us warnings to get ourselves right. So it says here, shoppers have hit out after reports of empty shelves in supermarkets across the country at the weekend. Morrison's has admitted a tomato shortage and a general lack of fresh vegetables is reported elsewhere. And it's not just fruits. This is basically touching fruits and vegetables, but it's other items as well. You're noticing. There's one point where oil was kind of short, cooking oil, and there's other things when you look. It ain't as voluptuous as it used to be, not as plentiful. Even simple things like eggs, they're destroying the chickens, and these things are putting up the prices of eggs. I used to be able to get 10 large eggs for £1. Now it's £1.79. It says Morrison's has admitted a tomato shortage and a general lack of fresh vegetables is reported elsewhere. Andrea Cohen, the SNP councillor for Rutherglen Central and North, posted a photo on Twitter showing a lack of vegetable at a site in her local area. It says, I'm sorry, at Tesco, this is not good enough in your Dalmarnock store on a Friday afternoon. Lots more shelves with empty boxes throughout the store, she wrote. And this is something that people is going to have to get used to. These things will get worse. At the moment, like I said, they're trying to spread them out across the shelves so that the shelves don't look as empty as it actually is, and those who have eyes to see would realize these things. But a lot of our people are just ignoring these things because you can still go out there and buy your stuff. It might have gone up a bit more, but the availability of these things ain't as affluent as they used to be. And this is what some people ain't taking into consideration. And like I said, because the things the scripture speaks about at the moment is coming in increments, it's coming in little by little. People ain't really paying no mind to that. And the Most High is giving us time to get ourselves right. Yeah, he's giving us time, because when he does actually let loose now, and you're in the full force and full swing of these things, there's going to be no time to get yourself right. That's why it says in 2nd Esdras again, 16 and 20, but for all these things they shall not turn from their wickedness, nor be always mindful of the scourges. Why? Because these ain't in full force yet. It's just coming in little by little. So supermarkets across the UK have been hit with fruit and veg shortages intermittently in recent years. So a combination of factors has been blamed for the shortages, including supply chain issues caused by the COVID pandemic, soaring energy costs fueled by Russia's illegal war in Ukraine, and shortage of both permanent and seasonal farm workers due to Brexit. And these things are all the Lord's doing, man. What it say in Proverbs 21, 1 and 2 says, the king's heart is in the hand of the Lord. Yeah, so these things are eternal, whethersoever he will. So these things that's happening is the Most High who's putting it in the mind of these various nations to do what they're doing, which is causing these things. He put it in the mind of the people to vote for Brexit. And look what's happening because of that. He's put it in the mind of the kings, in this case, Putin, to go up against Ukraine. And look what's happening because of that. Yeah, but people ain't really paying attention to that. They're not giving the Lord the credit that is due. It says rising prices are bad enough, but lack of basic foodstuff is unacceptable. Yeah, and who is it that caused us to eat anyway? It's the Most High. It says, my servant shall eat. It says, Morrison said stock at a store in Cheltenham had been affected by adverse weather conditions across Spain and Morocco, where it gets some of its supplies from. So even with that, who's causing these adverse weathers to happen? The Most High. This is him visiting us little by little, telling us to get ourselves right. Scripture speaks about the Lord visiting the earth that he made. These are all visitation. So supermarkets across the UK have been hit with fruit and vegetable shortages intermittently in recent years. I read that already. Salakia. It says Lee Valley, which stretches from Hertfordshire and Essex to North London, produced around 75% of Britain's cucumber and peppers in 2020. The area, dubbed the cucumber capital of Britain, could see production half this year compared with 2020 figures. And it's not just fruit and veg that's getting short, scarce. If you look on the shelves when you go out, you find out there's a number of things becoming scarce, not as voluptuous on the shelves as it used to be. It says people across Britain are set to see the cost of each unit of electricity and gas they use soar from the beginning of April. The final forecast from energy consultancy Cornwall Inside has said, yeah, Mossad is squeezing this place. It says the Ofgem price cap on energy bills, which regulates what energy suppliers are able to charge, but not necessarily what householders pay, will fall by around 1,000 to 3,000 and mash, the analyst said. But because of the way the government's energy support workers, also would be left paying an extra 20% for their energy and will also not get monthly payments of £66 to £67 towards their energy bills. Yeah, all more squeezing. There's some more of this. Also squeezing the people, then, man. So like, yeah. How come this one shows up different here? So like, yeah. You know what? I'll bring this over. Yeah, I'll read it from this. Yeah. It says here, I see this woman, Nikki Obson, says, interestingly, and possibly the time of year, but every time I've been into my local at Morrison store in the last week, there has been no tomatoes of any type or iceberg lettuce. Wouldn't say they are high demand items this time of year, so supply chain issues. It caused by what? Things that the Mossad are doing, man. Look at these shows. There's the same here, not a fresh tomato to be had at Morrison's Borough Bridge on Friday afternoon. There's a report from Proma International found that growers' production costs increased by as much as 27% in the last year, with tomatoes, broccoli, apples, and root vegetables most affected. Then you got this video here, empty shelves captured by a supermarket shopper. There's no real audio here, just a bag of noise. So you can see the empty shelves. Hold on. Look at that. That's a bag of empty shelves. Yeah, and signs of things to come, man. And another thing that they're doing at supermarkets, they keep moving stuff around, so you have to walk around looking for stuff. You might know where something was one week, the next week you ended up walking around, and they do that to try and look, there's a lot, in the hope that you catch eye on something else. You see the empty shelves. There's quite a few empty shelves, man. Yeah, if the law's not on your side, man, the law's not on your side. And that was quite a few empty shelves. That's not even just vegetables there. And then it goes into the energy was one of the main drivers to increase costs, up 165%, followed by fertilizer. Yes, they need fertilizer, up 40%, and workforce costs up 13%. And all these things are adding to cost as well. Cost of living make the cost of living go higher. It says Martin Emmett of the National Farmers Union said that the industry was under the greatest strain I've ever seen. A continued lack for a reliable workforce, both in permanent and seasonal roles. And since this Brexit thing, they've had a lack of workers doing certain works like picking the fruits, the veg, etc. Because for some reason, people over here don't want to do that work. Combined with sharply rising input costs, particularly for energy, has put many businesses on a knife edge. Producers of high energy crops, in particular, such as top fruit, vegetables, and crops grown under glasshouses, have seen severe doubts about their business viability. Says Minute Batters, BGTA, British food, is under threat at a time when global volatility is threatening the stability of the world's food production, food security, and energy security. I fear the country is sleepwalking into further food supply crisis, with the future of British fruit and veg supplies in trouble. And like I said, this is just speaking mainly on veg, but it's not just veg that's been affected, because them shelves that you saw weren't just veg shelves. It weren't just fruit and veg shelves. Professor Philip Morley, horticulturalist and technical officer of the British Tomato Growers Association, oh, that's what that is, told the grocer, rising fuel costs as sick meant, I forgot what this meant, sick, meant transporting costs are now higher. I think sick is to do with something being said, basically repeating someone word for word. Can be clarified on that. It says meant transport costs are now higher. Other input costs such as seeds, fertilizer, and feed have also increased between 100 and 400%. These are top of the health checks on seeds entering the UK to rule out plant virus that can affect crops. Those costs are also passed on to the grower, which is then passed on to the buyer. Morrison's availability across our tomato range has been significantly impacted by adverse weather conditions across Spain and Morocco. The current shortages is likely to improve within a couple of weeks. And, that is the crux of what I want to read. Yeah. So these things that's happening bit by bit, little by little, but don't be fooled by them, man. This is the time to get yourselves right. 2 Ezra 16 and 1. Woe be unto thee, Babylon and Asia. Woe be unto thee, Egypt and Syria. And right about now, some places are getting it worse than others, but it's going to be worldwide at some point. Yeah, gird up yourselves with clothes of sack and hair, bewail your children, and be sorry, for your destruction is at hand. And that's what the Most High is looking to do, bring destruction to this place. Yeah, it's not going to happen just like that. Yeah, it's going to be in increments, man. And this is what we're seeing. We're seeing the increments. These are warning signs. It says the beginning. Yeah, a sword is sent upon you, and who may turn it back? Yeah, so the scripture speaks about great death, great famine, wars, and all of these things. From it's spoken, yeah, it's going to happen. So who can turn that back? It's a rhetorical question. No one can. And it won't be turned back. A fire is sent among you, and who may quench it? Plagues are sent unto you, and what is he that may drive them away? No one can't drive them away. Our people are looking to Esau and these other nations to help them to solve this problem. It's not going to work, man. The Most High has spoken these things. It says, may any man drive away a hungry lion in the wood, or may anyone quench the fire in stubble when it has begun to burn? May one turn again the arrow that is shot of a strong archer? And no. Once the arrow's gone, that's it. You just have to wait for it to hit. And it's the same with these plagues. These judgments that the Most High is bringing on the earth, it's been spoken. So it's just a case of waiting for it to come. But are you going to have the Most High on your side? Are you going to be trusting in the Lord like it says, and not leaning on your own understanding? Most of our people are going to be leaning on their own understanding, man. It says, the mighty Lord sendeth the plagues, and who is he that can drive them away? It says, a fire shall go forth from his wrath, and who is he that may quench it? Yeah, all rhetorical questions. He shall cast lightnings, and who shall not fear? He shall thunder, and who shall not be afraid? The Lord shall threaten, and who shall not be utterly beaten to powder at his presence? And the thing is, a lot of people ain't fearing that threat at the moment, because of we're just at the beginning of these stages. Yeah, once it starts to get worse and worse, you think then people in Syria, when the buildings started to shake and so forth, yeah, if they didn't believe in a God, then you can guarantee that many of them was crying out to someone, yeah, some higher being. Yeah, that's when a lot of people actually want to turn to the Most High, when their backs against the wall and man can't save them. Yeah, we need to do that from now, while we have a chance to do so. says the earth quaketh, and the see that foundation thereof. The sea ariseth up with waves from the deep, and the waves of it are troubled, and the fishes thereof also before the Lord, and before the glory of his power. For strong is his right hand that bendeth the bow. Yeah, that's that mighty archer sending these things, man. That's the Lord. His arrows that he shooteth are sharp. The scripture says, sword is sharpened, man, and furbished, and shall not miss when they begin to be shot into the ends of the earth. If you thought that Robin Hood was good, you know, you see in the films where one guy would shoot at the target and he catches it center, and then Robin Hood comes with his arrow and busts that arrow that was in there. Yeah, the Most High is sharper than that still. It says, behold, the plagues are sent and shall not return again until they come upon the earth. The fire is kindled and shall not be put out till it consume the foundation of the earth. Like as an arrow which is shot of a mighty archer returneth not backward, even so the plagues that shall be set upon earth shall not return again. Woe is me, who will deliver me in those days? That's the question you need to ask yourself, man. Who are you seeking to deliver you in those days? Are you seeking on Esau and these other nations, or are you seeking on the Lord? Yeah, but that's all I wanted to touch, really. You know, these plagues are sent, and they're upon the earth. You got flooding in I think it's New Zealand. I'll quickly see something. Like, yeah. New Zealand. It says Cyclone Gabriel, thousands yet to be contacted after New Zealand storm. I'm not gonna read none of that, but the devastation is quite great, man. Let me see. Give me a second. Let me set it so that you can hear the audio on this. Listen, I need to take off the noise cancellation so you can hear this video. Look at that. Yeah, this is New Zealand. Yeah, this is some of the plagues. Look how high this water is. Look at the van. Yeah. These are some of the plagues. These are some of the plagues that the Lord has sent. You know, and it won't stop until, you know, he has accomplished what he wants to do. That's crazy. So this is just a short period of time. The water's risen to that heights. So you can see how the earth could have flooded, man. Like I said, these plagues are sent and they're coming little by little. Don't be fooled, man. It's just going to get worse. But with that, hopefully the lesson was edifying. Going to close out. Going to give all glory, honor and praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Mahar, Rakar Kadash, Kwan Rasha Allah.